Today we're going to be counting down my Rugby World Cup dream team. I know World Rugby has recently put a list out of who they think was the best player from the last 12 months since last November, but only Eben made that list, which is quite farcical. I mean, winning the World Cup must be a big deciding factor of who you put into your dream team. But I'm going to be specifically looking at my World Cup dream team. That's all I'm worried about. The rest is just warm-ups, basically. South Africa turns up when they need to turn up, which is why they've won it twice in a row and a record 4 times in total. But I've tried to be as fair as possible here and include other nations where I think they've made an impact on my mind. So let's get straight into it, ladies and gentlemen. At fullback, if we look at the winners, you've got Damian de Allende, who didn't really have a bad game. He didn't really have anything too exceptional. Willie le Roux was good off the bench, but I'd have to say for 15, Thomas Ramos was head and shoulders above most. The French player, consistent performer before and during the World Cup. Nobody really from the South African or New Zealand side. You look at a guy like Beauden Barrett and he definitely looks like he's lost a yard of pace. Still a fantastic player, but at the highest level, once you north of 30, wasn't this his 3rd World Cup, so a lot of miles under the clock for Beauden Barrett. I'd have to say Geordie Barrett looked like the fresher of the two in terms of backline play, and Scott Barrett, solid performance at lock. But anyway, there you go. Thomas Ramos at 15 for me. No surprises there. Right wing, Pernod has been making a lot of noise, scoring a lot of tries, but I've noticed that he just lacks a bit of that top end, that pure top end that somebody like Cheslyn Colby has. I mean, he struggled to chase Colby down during their game and was definitely left wanting when it comes to out and out pace, which is very important in my teams. And Cheslyn Colby made a lot of important tackles, scored a lot of important points throughout the year and at the World Cup. Just a blue chip winger. He punches above his weight. He jumps so high for that high ball. He often gets higher than guys way taller than him. The heart of a lion. Cheslyn Colby, and also very unlucky, read a yellow card. I mean, he was going for the ball. You're not even allowed to go for the ball these days. If you knock it on, then it's a yellow card. I think that was Wayne Barnes lived up to his reputation there in the final. But anyway, Colby on the right wing. I mustn't get too thick in the weeds here. Now 13 is a tricky one because I'm going to have to include a player here that I've never rated. And I would love to put Rico Ioane in there because he's my sort of outside centre. Very quick, can step. Pace of a winger, can tackle, 100 kilo, Dani Gerber type thing. But I'm going to have to go for Jess Kriel at 13. Fantastic on defence. He doesn't offer you as much as, say, a Kanan Moody or Ioane on attack. He doesn't have that winger speed. But he's got enough speed and he's not selfish. He passes the ball a lot. He almost passes the ball too much. A guy like Moody doesn't pass the ball enough. He's a youngster. He's got an eye for the try line. But Jess Kriel, almost overly generous player. Good team man. Then it's 12, because this is a very, very difficult one, because I think for me reaching and winning the final is going to be, because there's a lot of great players that went out in the quarters. If you had a great game in the final and performed on the route to the final, that's surely going to be worth more than somebody who got put out in the quarters. So as a result, Bundiaki, I think he just gets trumped by Damian de Allende, who didn't have a bad game during the whole World Cup, popped up for a couple of tries, and played really well with Jess Kriel. I mean, de Allende's a hard man, 106 kilos. He's probably the best tackler in the team, which you need at inside centre. Good on the crash ball. He kept Andre Estesen out the team, 113 kilo crash ball specialist himself. So that just shows you the quality of rugby that's coming out of de Allende. It's actually an embarrassment of riches, the amount of players the Springboks have to choose from. Hence, it's a Springbok-laden team. You're going to say it's biased, but hey, we've won 2 in a row. Enough said. Then at 11, very, very tricky because Curtly Arends has been playing some fantastic rugby, but I just like the look of Mark Tele'a, the New Zealand left winger. Great stepper, good pace, decent size, and has been a constant performer for New Zealand, keeping the likes of Caleb Clark out of the New Zealand team, who's son of Ironi Clark, great player as well. You see, it's good to have competition in key places. Special mention for Will Jordan. He scores a lot of try, but I'd put him in the same category as Penal, just not quite quick enough to make my team on the wing. He doesn't have that out-and-out 10-500 meter top end speed. I think Will Jordan would be a fantastic outside centre. I think his body, his play is suited to outside centre, but just at wing, you could see in the final he ran out of ideas very quickly when he's up against a guy a little bit quicker than him who can tackle. And then at 10, I've seen Richie Mwanga making a lot of dream teams, but I found him, he doesn't have bottle for kicking in pressure situations. He's good on attack, similar level to Mani Lubbock, but on pressure kicks, there's one guy you want to be taking your kicks, and that's what wins you World Cups. And this is a World Cup dream team, is Andre Pollard. 10 out of 10 odd kicks, at least in the World Cup. Impeccable record, and he started to get his game going in the final there after he had a bit more game time under his belt, getting the back line going. His tackling is not the best out of all the fly-offs in the World Cup, but he was rusty. But when it came down to doing what he's paid to do and kick the ball, nobody can touch Pollard. And then at 9 is very tricky. Faf de Klerk was amazing during this World Cup. The rip he did on the French scrummager to win the game at the end there, as the clock was in the 80th minute, he ripped the ball from the guy and kicked it out, and game over. South Africa wins the quarter-final in Paris. But then looking at Dupont play, I haven't seen that much of him, but looking at him in that World Cup, he looks like an absolute thoroughbred, hard man. Very extremely educated boot, good speed, like a chiseled bull terrier with border collie brain. Dupont, you got to put him in the team at 9. And then at 8 is difficult because Duane Vermeulen Thor had some spanking games, but mainly for his performance in the quarterfinals against Ireland, Ardie Savea comes in at 8. Good ball player, good runner, can do the fetching as well. Fantastic all-round player. And then at number 7, after his finals performance, all those smashing tackles, the Malmesbury missile, Mr. Pieter Steff-DT. 6'7", 118 kilos, big enough to play lock or flanker. He gives you so many options, and such a gentleman, Pieter Steff-DT. That's a no-brainer at 7. Number 6 is a bit controversial because they went out in the quarters, but the kind of impact he made on the tournament and the kind of minor this guy shows, sure, he can be a very cheeky and rude to his opponents sometimes, calling Sam Cane a poor man's Richie McCaw, and didn't he say something to, these are all alleged, or didn't he say something to Duane Vermeulen like he wasn't good enough to play for South Africa? Is Mr. Peter O'Mahony. He was epic against South Africa and Scotland, but it just looked like they ran out of gas against New Zealand. I don't see why Farrell got World Coach of the Year, because he didn't rotate his team in the World Cup. The guys were flat and tired by the time they got to the quarters. The Ireland players had some of the most game time, and really they didn't use their whole squad, and it came back to bite them in the arse, which almost happened with South Africa playing the same team three matches in a row, but luckily the guys came to the party in the final, and our strong bench that you can bring on early is a deciding factor. So there you go, Peter O'Mahony at 6. I always like to have a good fetcher and a hard man in my team. Number 5 is a tricky one. There's some good French locks and some tall timber from Ireland, but just for work rate and versatility, Mr. Franco Mostert comes in at 5. Another team player. Always puts a team first. Extremely high work rate, tackle rate, good in the line out. He doesn't have the 130 kilo bulk to push him over like some of the other guys do, but just on work rate and holding, he gets in at 5. And 4 is Eben Etzebeth, enough said. the only South African to make the RWC Dream Team, which was a complete shambles. It just shows you how much World Rugby has been plotting against South Africa. But to Rassi's credit, he's played a smart game. He hasn't put the middle finger up. He's put his finger to his brain and thought, how can we work with these guys? Let's not be a team that gives away a lot of penalties. Let's work with the referee. Let's almost get them to like us a bit and rewrite the script. And it's really on them for their selections. South Africa's been playing an open deck of cards and trying to be sort of team building on a global level. Look at Kolisi, the way he talks, and an inspirational leader. And it's not about me. It's about the nation. A nation that has had its fair share of issues with World Rugby. I mean, let's be honest, we were supposed to be hosting this tournament, but money talks and bullshit walks, allegedly. Okay, number 3 is a tough one, but you're going to have to go for Mr. Frans Malherbe. Just a reliable, solid performer in the front row. Nice big lad, 125 kilos. His fitness has improved. You seldom see him getting somebody getting the upper hand on him, and the gas tank is much better. You can go 80 minutes now. Number 2, it would have been Malcolm Marx if you stuck around. Bongi just doesn't quite give you enough in the loose play to be in my dream team. He's a good, solid team player, great in the scrum, and in the scrum that's probably where he comes to his own. But just with ball in hand, not as good as Malcolm Marx, but Malcolm had an injury early in the tournament, so let's give it to an Irishman. Dan Sheehan. Also a star performer for Ireland throughout 2013. Pity they couldn't get over the line when it mattered. And then number 1 can only be the Ox, Nche, who's been the most destructive scrummager at the Rugby World Cup, tearing front rows apart, especially the England one in the semis that won us the game, getting penalty after penalty after just smashing guys. Ox and Nche taking a feather out of Osterrand's hat and really just smashing oppositions. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's run through my World Cup 15 and then we'll go through the reserves. You got Thomas Ramos of France at fullback, right wing Cheslyn Colby, Jess Kriel at 13, de Allende at 12, Mark Tele'a at 11, Pollard at 10, Dupont at 9, Ardie Savea at 8, Pieter Steff at 7, Pieter Marler at 6, Franco Mostert at 5, Eben at 4, Frans Malherbe at 3, 2 is Dan Sheehan, and 1 Ox and Nche. Tell me that team wouldn't fuck up most teams in the world. Excuse my language, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go through the bench. Deon Foerie, the best 38-year-old in the world. One of the few to still be playing top-level rugby. This guy's just timeless. Incredible fetcher. Decent in the line-out. Not the best line-out throw, but good enough. But his play in broken play and fetching and mongrel work is probably only matched by Kwagga Smith, which is good enough to get him as reserve hooker. And he can play flank as well. Then at 17, the only English player to get in the side, somebody I've been impressed with in the scrums. Really a bit of a clown, not a bit of a clown, a clown, but fantastic in the set pieces is Joe Marler. One of the few England props to hold their own. When he went off, things went downhill pretty quickly. Then at 18 you got Spicy Plumb, Stephen Kitsoff, who had a good solid World Cup. Not good enough to get in the starting 11, but a good solid performer. RG Snyman, backup lock, 6'9", very aggressive, good ball player, and a try scoring machine. Great to be part of the bomb squad. Number 18, the form fetcher, the form guy coming off the bench is Mr. Kwagga Smith. Won South Africa a lot of games, just pure mongrel work, being the first to the breakdown. Also because he's a bit smaller, shorter, he's more compact. Those shorter guys are perfect to be fetchers, under just around 6 foot, because they can be the first to the ball. The guys like Pieter Steff, 6'7", it's harder for them to get there and a little bit slower. So you need a good balance of the big timber and some of the little little Jack Russells to get in there, and Kwagga Smith is hard as all teak. And then another hard man is Mr. Duane Vermeulen, backup 8th man, also with captaincy ability. His final World Cup brought it in every game and left his heart and soul on the field, ladies and gentlemen. An interesting one is 20 is the backup scrum half. Now this is very, very difficult because Faf de Klerk had a fantastic World Cup, and so did Aaron Smith. But I think Faf just edged it because he's still in his prime, where I feel like Aaron Smith is just kind of just over the peak. And that's why Faf gets in as my reserve scrummy. And then finally, I'm playing a 6-2 split here, forwards and backs. I thought Willie was past his best, but when he's come off the bench, he's brought his experience and sort of made the right decisions at the right time. Often Willie makes stupid errors in games where there's not high pressure games, but the more pressure, the less errors that Willie makes, and that's why he comes in at fullback on the bench. So my bench, run it through again: Deon Foerie, Joe Marler, Spicy Plumb, RG Snyman, Kwagga Smith, Duane Vermeulen, Faf de Klerk, and Willie le Roux. I know what you're saying, people from South Africa. It's a lot of South Africans in the team, but newsflash, we just won the World Cup. That makes us the best team. Catch you next time on Africa Sideways.